Hi, so in this video I'd like to talk a bit about why I decided to make these videos and where I'm coming from in all of this. So when the news first broke about Lucy Letby, now I take my news from the BBC website, that is my primary source. So the first things that were coming up was that this nurse was suspected of murdering babies, and her mugshot was all over the place. So obviously I took it as read. This was the BBC. This is a trusted source. You know, fact checking is everything with the BBC. And then the news, then her notes on the post-its, those were disclosed. Then, you know, more and more information came out, and at this point, you know, I was still taking everything from the BBC. It transpired that she'd taken a lot of personal notes home. Then there were, you know, mentions that she'd been at the scene in all of these fatalities. And then there were the doctors' reports and findings, and this all added up for me as, well, of course she's done it, of course she's guilty. You know, it honestly looked done and dusted, and it looked like, you know, no two ways about it. She was guilty, the evidence was there, she'd been found guilty. So I kind of like to talk about those things in the light of other evidence or other opinions, other evidence, other news articles. All that has started coming forward after the fact, which has led me to have a different opinion. Not necessarily that she's innocent, but that the conviction may not be safe. And I think it should be looked into, you know, retried if necessary, whatever. So to start with, I'm actually going to do a shout out to Mark Moyles, and he's been doing, now he does take the standpoint that he thinks she's innocent, but he's very, very good at hunting out news articles. He managed to get his hand on the New York Times article. So he's really, really good at getting other information that the rest of us, the sort of information that you have to hunt for a bit, which gives a bit of a broader perspective on this. So it's quite interesting to see what he's come up with. So that said, you know, what was reported in the news, I believe that. I think we all believe that because the BBC is a trusted source. As far as I'm concerned, the BBC is still a trusted source because they verify everything. If they can't verify it, they don't report it, or they say this has not been verified. So everything that they'd put up, you know, it had come from people in the hospital. So, or the police reports. So that was, you know, the information they had. So yeah, that's why I trusted, you know, what was in the main news. I would still trust what was in the main news, to be honest. And then there's Lucy Letby's notes. Once you see that, you know, scribbled all over those post-its, it does look really quite condemning, and I was swayed by that completely, because I thought, oh, she's got to be guilty. Now, there's a therapist who's a lot of this has come out after the fact, you see. There's a few people actually, I think, who've talked about this on YouTube, and I know there's a therapist, I can't think of the video, but they did explain about notes like this in relation to Lucy Letby, and how they ask patients to write notes, you know, to write down their thoughts and feelings in times of stress. And there's a particular way they asked them to do it, and they said this would actually fit in with how we ask clients, patients to write stuff down. So it's to imagine the worst case scenario, so that would fit within that context. That would actually fit. So they're not necessarily a confession or an admission of guilt, and they didn't take up that much time in the court case. I think they took up about 8 minutes or something like that. But I mean, you only need to see them once to think, oh yeah, that person's guilty, without knowing the context of how they were written, why they were written, and the formula, the format for that. Now, she took notes home with her, medical notes home with her, and you know, I thought, oh God, that's terrible. That's a breach of trust. That's a breach of confidentiality. You should never do stuff like that. And I mean, I still think that. Okay. But instead of, you know, being guilty, I mean, she did say they came home with me in my scrubs, and everyone was really, really busy. The ward, the hospital was understaffed, or the department certainly was understaffed, so they could have just come home in her pocket, in her scrubs pocket, at the end of the evening, and sort of ended up there that way. I'm a bit surprised that, I mean, now I don't know, maybe if you're a nurse in the UK you could enlighten me on this. I didn't know people went home in their scrubs. I would have thought they'd have, you know, put them in the laundry first and then changed to their normal clothes, because I worked at a hospital, but this is in Norway, for a little bit. I worked as a cook, and we all wore the same scrubs, but we went in our normal clothes. We got them out of the cupboard in the morning, and then at the end of the shift we put them in with the dirty laundry, went home with our normal clothes. So I don't know what the procedure is, But so what she could have been doing with that, if she took the notes home, I mean, they could have ended up there accidentally, but she could have actually been going over those notes again and again and again to work out the details, because if something has gone wrong, so, you know, we've all been there. If something goes wrong, we go over and over and over in our heads to try and work out, well, did I do that right? Can I remember exactly what was going on? So that could actually be a possibility, that she was trying to work out, did I do something wrong here? Did I miss something? So yeah, that could have been that. Now, she was at the scene with a lot of the, I mean, she was at the scene in every case she was convicted in, I think. I think more information needs to, the end of the day, more information could not be got about that. That is circumstantial evidence, because she was just there. And it's been said by other people, well, she was working more shifts than anyone else, so she was going to be there, you know, just on more occasions. So there are things we don't know about that. It's just that she was there. I mean, the only dubious thing here is really when they move to daytime shifts. The number of deaths seem to go with her, but again, she seemed to have been working more hours than anyone else at that time. So, I mean, that's not impossible. Now, the doctor's reports on, you know, what had happened, what was their findings on the cause of this deaths. There are the expert opinions. There are now differing opinions. If you see Black Belt Barrister's channel, he has something to say about the specialist in court. Was it the special witness? No, the expert witness. Was it Dewey Evans, who, you know, certainly appears to be very knowledgeable. I'm certainly not saying he isn't. But apparently his is not the only opinion. Another doctor has weighed in and said, look, I would have diagnosed this differently. So it looks like there could be differential diagnoses or opinions from experts in the field about this. So that's really what I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I've got a couple more videos to come, so you know, hopefully you like this video, and hope to see you in the next video.